experts say regular power cuts may affect the safety of food in refrigerators and can even result in food poisoning. Perishable foods such as fresh meat, fresh fish, milk and even cheeses are among those that are most susceptible to spoilage and food safety concerns. So to discuss this even further, we're now joined by health expert Dr Fundile Nyati, of course, in this new year. And Happy New Year, Dr. Nyati. Thank you so much for your time. I mean, we have to talk about the impacts of blackouts and load shedding even in the new year. And I suppose food is one of them. What do we do then with the food that, of course, goes off in our fridges or that is susceptible to going off because of, obviously, load shedding and blackouts?
Good morning, Tumelo, and good morning to your viewers. Well, the rolling, load shedding and the power outages are actually seriously affecting our pockets because obviously during the time where there is no electricity, then food that is supposed to be stored at certain critical temperatures within our fridges, or even our freezers, when that cannot happen, then it exposes us to a risk whereby the food warms up to what we call a danger zone, the temperature over 5 degrees, anywhere up to about 60 degrees Celsius. And that danger zone is really the zone whereby bacteria that may be found in that food, they grow very fast. And so it does expose people then to what we call foodborne illnesses. So it is really, really a problem. And there isn't really a clear answer to the question, what do we do with our foods? Because whenever that happens, especially if it is stage 6, where there could be no electricity for, 4 hours, sometimes longer than that, that can then put us in a big risk, and it's something that most South Africans are battling with.
Yeah, Doc, when it comes to food particularly going off, and you've just explained it quite clearly about the stages that it takes and what happens to our food, especially the food that's meant to be in our refrigerators, and when it's not a certain degrees, what happens to it? Is it clear for the normal eye, to see that this is not safe to consume anymore? Because oftentimes we wait for mold around the cheese, we wait for mold on the bread for the expiry date. But is it easier to see, or can food actually go off even before we start seeing, those blue, gray, green parts of the mold on the food?
Yeah, so I think quite a number of people, they think that you only have to get to that point where you can see mold, then you say, all right, this food is actually off. But often, like I mentioned, that there's bacteria that is normally found in foods. And so when the temperature is not at the right level, for example, stuff that needs to be refrigerated, like meat, whether it is, cold meat or cooked meat, so that kind of food can go off and have, the germs without you having, smelling any funny smells or, anything that you can actually taste. So the point is waiting, to see obvious change, when you look with your eye, does not necessarily mean that food is actually safe to eat. So food can actually be unsafe without any visible changes.
Yeah. And also, what health, or rather illnesses should one be aware of, or can one be prone to due to food going off? Yes, we mentioned food poisoning as one of them, but just to give that warning to our viewers when they do consume food that they either can seize off or can't see, just as a warning that when you see these symptoms, it might just be time to go check in with your doctor.
Well, so when we talk food poisoning, I think I just want to clear this one. When we talk food poisoning, people think that somebody went and put poison in the food, which is something else called sorcery. So food poisoning and sorcery are not the same thing.
Yeah.
So when we talk food poisoning or foodborne illnesses, really what we're talking about is food that may not have been stored, prepared or stored correctly, whereby then some of the germs, which may be bacteria, which may be viruses, which may be fungi and other types of contaminants, they then affect the food to an extent that the person, when they eat that food, depending on the bacteria that is affected or the germ that is there, as early as within 30 minutes of eating that food, they may start to present with an upset stomach. They may start to present with abdominal cramps. They may start to present with vomiting. They may start to present with diarrhea. And in other cases, they may even have what we call systemic symptoms, where the body temperature may go up, and there may be other complaints as well. So, and these happen, it can be within, a few minutes, like I said, 30 minutes, where it's what we call toxins that are causing the problem, or it may actually be after a number of days. So depending on the offending germ, the time it takes for one to present with those symptoms, may vary. And if it was in a gathering, for example, then there may be more people who are suffering with those symptoms that are obviously affecting the gastrointestinal tract. Otherwise, even at home, even if there was no mass gathering, you may present with those symptoms. And because of this problem of load shedding, it's very, very difficult for people to keep foods at the safe, temperatures of below 5 degrees. Because between 5 degrees and 60, like I said, it's a danger zone where germs can actually multiply very quickly. And for stuff that is frozen, which is supposed to be below 18 degrees, once again, with load shedding, then there could be some defrosting of that food. And with that process of thawing or defrosting, again, where the food can get messed up and some of the germs can actually multiply.
Oh, we appreciate this conversation. Definitely an eye-opener, Doc, especially given that ISCOM has mentioned that this is still going to be an issue in the country, even in 2023. So we absolutely needed to know this so that we can take any preventative measures as possible for our health. Dr. Fundile Nyati, our health expert, thank you so much for your time this morning.